I was having a conversation with a salon owner the other day, and they were telling me that some of their people are just getting stuck during the training process. And they said, how do I get them unstuck? Well, I think in this context, I have to sort of read between the lines. Now, I did question them a little bit further, and I found out that it was a part of their training. But if you find that you have people within your training system, employees that are working for you, staff that are working for you, and they get stuck in their learning, they get stuck in the process of advancement, maybe is a better way of putting it, just type in the word stuck. Even if you're listening to this later or you're watching the record, I'm watching this all the time. So please just play along, type in stuck, even if you're watching the re-record. So the reason here's the way I put it to them. I said that there's a cycle that you go through in the learning, and in the parlance that they have, the fancy pants term for that is called the learning continuum, just meaning that if you continue on in a certain path, you get to one place and there's hiccups that go along the road. So I've pre-made this very fancy pants, high-tech image that you can see that's going on here right now. But I want to talk to you a little bit about what happens when people are learning. So first off, here's what happens is the people are going to make a decision. They're going to make a decision on that they want to learn because generally they have a problem. Now, the problem might be in haircutting. The problem might be in their coloring technique. Their problem might be in learning trends, whatever that is. It might be on their business skill or finishing skill, whatever it is. Here's what generally happens. And if you can identify this as I'm going along, I want you to, if you see that this is you and you've been through this, I know that I have, just type in I relate, or I'm relating as you go along to this. Because here's what happens. We sort of go through and we get started on this process. And if you give me thumbs up in the chat bar if you find that you first start and you're super jacked, you're super excited, because along the path there is some really great learning that's happening inside here. Now, so as you work your way up through there, and then you get to this very top. I know you've been practicing, and we've all heard this, that practice makes perfect, and that's not necessarily true, that perfect practice makes perfect. It just gets you better, and it gives you progress at what you do. So the idea is, here's what happens. So you've been through that, you practice and practice. Now you get to this point right at the top, right inside here, and you kind of hit this plateau. This is that piece right inside here where you're moving along really well, everything's cool, and all of a sudden that you find suddenly that the big B word shows up. If you know what the B word is, no, it's probably not that one, but all of a sudden you had the excitement from learning, you had a plateau. Let's say you got excited because you were learning how to do a graduated bob, and then you were always making mistakes, and now you got it nailed. You had your mistakes all the while that you were going up through this. You got to that certain part where you're consistently on track. You don't have to worry about it. You can do your graduated bob with your eyes closed. You hit that plateau where you're going through. All of a sudden, that's where the B word comes in. If you've typed it in, I know you have, you just get bored. Now, at that point right here, this is another really crucial part that we go through right into here, because this is where there is to the learner, there's a huge risk that goes along here, because you're going to be trying something new. So if you know what happens when you try something new, type it in right now. What do you think that is? You know that there's a risk, but what happens as you go through this, right? Because the first thing that's going to happen as you work your way down this, you're trying something new. You're going down in your learning because you're trying something different. It's all things that are new. It's things that might even be unrelatable to you at first, and you've got to get through this process as you're learning the new thing. Now you're trying the new things. You hit a critical part right into here where you're trying it, and all of a sudden what happens at this point is that fear hits you. And this is a point, this is actually where there is going to be a turning point. This is where either one of two things are going to happen. And if you relate to what I'm talking about right now, I want you to type in the words relate, because here's what could happen. That orange line that you see in there, there's a transition right there where if you give up, you say, look at, and I know this is, you've seen it with your team. I know that it's happened to you. I know it's happened to me. It comes to that point where you go, look at, I just don't seem to be getting any progress. It was far easier where I was before. So they take this ride back up because of the fear, and they end up, and it's easier to do what I was doing before. And so I just say, look, I'm going to go back to the way it was before. It was easier. I knew what I could do. This happens when, if you've ever been through something where you might be learning, you had one way that you were holding the scissors when you were cutting, and somebody come along and you were used to cutting on the back of your hand. Somebody said, cut in the palm of your hands, palm to palm cutting. Here's how you hold your scissors. Here's how you hold your hands together. Here's how you move your hands. This is the way you hitchhike from one side to the other. So you say, okay, good, I'm going to try that. And you try it in the class. All of a sudden, you can't even think about what you're doing here. It seems like you've never cut hair before. If you've never had this in a class, whether it was this or something else, type in, if you found that you went, I don't even know how to cut hair or color hair or do whatever that service was anymore, just type in, that's me, because that's generally what happens at the very beginning when this risk is. If it goes on for too long without a change in progress, you'll all of a sudden say, I'm going to go back. It was easier where I was bored. It was easier at the plateau. I'm just going to go back and do what I've always, type it in, done. I'll do what I've always done, But if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. And it's exactly the same results you'll get here. So this is where something a little bit different can happen in here. And I call this area right into here, this is what we call you can have in this area also, if you can, as the educator, as the trainer, you can get in there and you can say, I'm going to help my people have a breakthrough. And this is what the big difference is one educator that says, listen, well then fine, go back doing what you were doing before. They'll just go back and they'll get stuck in this loop where every time they try something new and they get no forward movement. However, as an educator, if you can say, keep them engaged, tell them how safe that everything is, how that you're proud of them, how you can work through this. Just like any coach, any athlete's coach helps them get through by positive reinforcement, you'll be surprised that they'll work through it when you hold them, keep it safe, and you're always working along with them. Now, the difference is when they have that breakthrough, you've helped them with that breakthrough, then all of a sudden, that's where this blue line goes. Now, as soon as they get that, they start to see difference in their growth. They're doing it better. Their clients are coming, they have more clients coming in. They're servicing their clients faster with a higher quality result. And they go further. Now, the idea here is, as soon as you do this, here's the trick in this, as soon as you can get them past that moment, get them to that breakthrough, you're going to take them to where they get to and what their dreams, what their goals are really all about. And that hinges on that educator, that person that stands with them and really helps them to have that breakthrough at the point where they could turn it all the way around and just go back to what it was before. If this was helpful, just type in helpful on the bottom. If you want to have more of this, say I want more. And here's what I'd also like to do. Next time you try this out, work with it with your assistants, work with your associates, as you're training your senior people and having your model nights. As you do that, let me know how it goes. As you see that shift in their eyes, I'd love to know it from you. So in the meantime, thanks for listening. Good luck. God bless.